Hi guys, welcome to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to make this wrap top that my sister is wearing. If that's something that you'd like to see, definitely keep watching and enjoy the video. Bye! To make your wrap top, you will need the following items. You need a measuring tape, and I like this measuring tape because it's got both the inches side as well as the centimeters side. For people that work with either, this is a perfect measuring tape. You'd also need some pins, and this is basically just to pin down your paper onto your fabric so that it can cut properly. You need your tailor's chalk to make markings on your fabric. You need your paper scissors to cut out paper because you shouldn't be using your regular scissors to cut out paper. You'd also need your fabric scissors to cut out your fabric. You need your pencil, but for the purpose of this video, I'll be using a marker so you can see clearly. You need a curve. Now, any kind of curve would work because I'm basically just going to use this to draw in my neckline. So whatever curve you have would work. However, I've got my varying curve because it just works perfectly and it's easy for me. You need your pattern master, which is my favorite tool. You all know that because it functions as a ruler, an armhole curve, and a set square. However, if you don't have one, you can definitely use a ruler, and you can shop these things in my link just down in the description bar. You need some paper, and then you also need your fabric. I recommend about 2.5 yards to 3.5 yards depending on your size. Start off by drawing a top line that is about 1 inch wide. This top line is a horizontal line and it's going to function as our shoulder line. Starting at the shoulder line, go ahead and mark your blouse length vertically. For me, the blouse length I have is 23.5 inches, which is basically the length of my paper. Next, starting at the shoulder line, go ahead and indicate the shoulder to bust point measurement as well as the shoulder to waist measurement. These measurements are both vertical measurements. Square out the shoulder to bust point measurement to give a horizontal line that will be called the bust line, and square out the shoulder to waist measurement to give a horizontal line that we'll refer to as the waistline. Mark a point 2 inches above the bust line, then square out as shown. This will be the armhole line. Label the lines appropriately. Starting at the top, we have the shoulder line, the armhole line, the bust line, the waistline, and lastly the blouse length line. On the shoulder line, mark half the shoulder measurement horizontally. So for me, the shoulder measurement I have is 15. I've gone ahead to mark 7.5 inches, which is half of that. On the armhole and bust line, mark 1/4 of the bust measurement horizontally as well. On the waistline, mark 1/4 of the waist measurement plus 1 inch. This is another horizontal measurement. And then on the blouse length line, mark 1/4 of the hip measurement. Connect the points as shown. While connecting the waist to the blouse length, it is advisable to use a curve or your freehand if you're confident of your freehand abilities. It is also important to note that sometimes it will not get to the exact points that we marked, and it's absolutely okay because the blouse length is not necessarily at the hip area. So for me, the distance between the point I marked and where my blouse length actually stops is about 1 inch, and that is fine. On the armhole line, indicate half the shoulder measurement horizontally, and then with the vertical line, connect this point to the same point on the shoulder line as shown. Mark 1 inch vertically on the armhole depth line, and then go ahead and draw in your armhole curve. I draw in my armhole curve using my pattern master, and if you would like to shop this pattern master, I've put a link in the description bar below, and when you shop, I get a small commission without any extra cost to you. Starting at the edge of the paper on the shoulder line, go ahead and indicate the neck width, and the neck width I'm using is 3.5 inches. You also want to indicate the neck depth starting at the shoulder line, and the neck depth for me is 1.5 inch. After I've gone ahead to mark these points, you want to go ahead and draw in your neckline, and I'm doing that with my pattern master. Draw in your shoulder slant by connecting the 2 points as shown. Label this piece as back and then go ahead and cut it out as shown. To draft out the front piece, go ahead and fold the paper into 2 and then pin the back piece onto it, making sure the edge of the paper aligns with the folded edge of the other paper. Cut out the front piece using the back piece as a template. Open up the front piece and indicate the waist on one side. This is important so that you know how to draw in the neckline from the shoulder to the waist as shown. To determine the neckline depth, go ahead and place your measuring tape starting at the shoulder point, and you want to place it diagonally so that it touches the center line of the paper, which is the line that you got from the fold. For me, I wanted my neck depth to be about 9.5 inches, which is kind of low but not too low. So if you want it higher, make sure you pick a higher point and then mark the point and draw in the neckline as shown. After drawing in the neckline, go ahead and label as front and then cut along the neckline as shown. For the back piece, you'll be cutting on fold and you'll only be cutting one piece. For the front piece, you'll be cutting 2 pieces of the fabric. To cut the back piece, fold your fabric over so that you have 2 layers and then place the back piece on it, making sure the edge of the fabric, or the edge of the paper rather, aligns with the edge of the fabric as shown. Go ahead and pin the fabric onto the paper securely and then mark out your sewing allowance. You want a sewing allowance of 1/2 inch by the neckline and the shoulder, 1/2 inch by the armhole, 1 inch at the side seam and 1 inch at the hem. After marking out the allowances, go ahead and cut the fabric along the marked points. For the front piece, I like to draw in a curve just to give it a shape at the edge, and then when I'm done cutting on fabric, I then go ahead and put some pleats there, but you'll see how I do that in a moment. However, this stage is absolutely optional and I just wanted to show you just in case it was something that you were interested in. To cut the front piece, fold your fabric into 2 and then go ahead and pin the front piece onto the fabric securely. You also want to go ahead and mark the sewing allowances of 1/2 inch by the neckline, 1/2 inch by the shoulder, 1/2 inch by the armhole, 1 inch at the side seam, 1 inch at the hem. After marking out the necklines, go ahead and cut along the points that you've just marked. Cut out the facing for the front piece. Because my fabric was not a lot, I went ahead and folded my fabric like so and then placed my front piece on it, pinned it into place and cut out the neckline as shown. After cutting out the front facing, Unpin the neckline, making sure to take note of the neckline area, and then go ahead and determine the width of the facing shoulder. For me, I wanted a shoulder width of 2.5 inches. I went ahead to mark this and then straightened my facing out so that I could have something even, at least at the outer edge. Overlock the outer edge of the facing as well as the side seam of both front pieces. To cut out the back facing, fold a scrap piece of fabric into two and then place the back piece on the scrap fabric, making sure the folded edges of both fabric align. Go ahead and cut out the neckline like so. Unpin the back facing and then go ahead and measure the shoulder width that you used for the front. In my case, that's 2.5 inches all around so that you have your back facing even. Cut out the back facing and then go ahead and overlock the outer edge of the facing as well as the two sides of the back piece. After overlocking the outer edge of the back facing and the sides of the back piece, this is what they look like. Place the back facing on the back piece of fabric so that the necklines match and the right sides of both fabric are facing each other. Afterwards, go ahead and pin the necklines into place securely. Mark out the sewing allowance of 1/2 inch and then go ahead and sew on these points. After sewing, this is what it looks like. The next step is to notch around the neckline, and I'm going to do that using my thread snips, and afterwards you want to top stitch by sewing on the right side of the facing as shown. After top stitching and ironing, this is what the neckline looks like, and I think it looks pretty good. The next step is to do the front neckline, and you basically want to repeat the same process. You want to match one of the front piece to the right facing, making sure the necklines match, and then you want to go ahead and pin it into place. Ensure the right sides are facing each other and then go ahead and pin from the top to the waist point. At the waist point or the cuff area, I like to form 2 pleats on both the facing and the main fabric as shown. After pleating, go ahead and pin what's left of the facing to the fabric. Starting at the shoulder, go ahead and sew on a 0.5 inch sewing allowance, making sure to backstitch when you get to the waist so that we can leave a gap for the belt and then continue sewing to the bottom. You want to make sure that the gap you leave unsewn is about 2.5 inches wide. After sewing, this is what it looks like. And as you can see, I left the gap for the belt unsewn on both the front pieces. The next step is to cut out the belt. I'll be using a plain fabric for this, and I'll be cutting out 2 strips of fabric that measure 4 inches in width and about 45 inches in length. I've gone ahead to fold my fabric into 2 already. Then I'm cutting out the desired length of my belt, which is 45 inches. Afterwards, I'll go ahead and fold my fabric over one more time so I have it folded into a total of 4, and then pin it all the way so that it's easier for me to cut. If you want, you can have your belt wider and longer. To give your belt a sharp tip, go ahead and cut diagonally as shown. Then I went ahead to mark out my desired width of 2 inches. Because my fabric has already been folded into 4, by the time I open it up, I would have 2 belts that are 4 inches wide, like I said earlier. Cut out your belt, making sure not to cut on the 2 folded edges. Separate the 2 belts, pin and then sew on a 0.5 inch allowance all the way up. After sewing both belts, this is what they should look like. Go ahead and turn the belts inside out and give it a good iron along the seams. Insert the belt into the belt hole on the front piece by passing the belt in between the facing and the fabric in the gap that we left for it. Pin the belt into place and then go ahead and sew the gap closed by sewing on a 0.5 inch sewing allowance, making sure to backstitch. Repeat this process for the second side. After sewing the belt gap closed, notch the curve and top stitch. Repeat this for the second side as well. After top stitching and ironing, this is what both front pieces look like. Next, join the sides by placing the back piece on the front piece, making sure the sides align and making sure the right sides of both fabric are facing each other. After doing that, go ahead and pin the sides together and mark the 1 inch sewing allowance. You want to do this for both sides of the fabric. However, on one side, you want to make sure you leave a space of about 2.5 inches unsewn, and this will be a space for the belt hole so that the belt can go in. So as you can see on this side, I've decided to leave my space of about 2.5 inches, and I've gone ahead to mark out the space. So I'll be sewing from the beginning up until where I want the space to start, and then I'll keep on sewing again from the bottom of the space. After sewing, this is what it looks like, and as you can see, I have a space left unsewn. Repeat the process for the other side, making sure to sew from the top all the way through to the bottom without any space this time. After joining the sides, go ahead and join the shoulders together as shown. Pin both shoulders together so that the right sides of the fabric are facing each other, and then go ahead and mark the sewing allowance of 0.5 inch all around and sew along these points. You also want to make sure that the facing of both shoulders are matching each other. After sewing, this is what the shoulder looks like. And as you can see, I've left a gap on one side of the side seam so that the belt can go through. The next thing to do is to fold in the hem. You want to start your hem just before the facing stops so that it flows seamlessly. Hem the bottom by folding in 1/2 inch twice, making sure that the side seams are open as shown. After folding in, hold the hem into place with pins. After pinning the entire hem of the blouse, go ahead and sew the hem into place. After sewing the hem, this is what it looks like. The next thing to do is to measure the armhole and cut out the sleeves. To cut out both sleeves, go ahead and fold your fabric into 4. Afterwards, mark out the desired sleeve length vertically, then square out as shown. Starting at the folded edge, mark out the armhole measurement we took earlier from the top all the way to the bottom as shown. From the top, mark down 5 inches vertically as shown, and then go ahead and draw in the S-shaped armhole curve. After measuring my armhole curve, I have a measurement of 11.5 inches, while the armhole measurement on my blouse is 10 inches, meaning that I have about 1.5 inches for my allowance and sleeve ease. Cut out the sleeves as shown. Separate both sleeves and then fold each sleeve into 2 as shown. Notch the sleeve crown and then pin the sides of the sleeves together. After pinning, go ahead and mark out the sewing allowance of 1 inch from the top to the bottom as shown, and then go ahead and sew on this sewing allowance. Repeat the process for the second sleeve. After sewing, your sleeve should look like this, and the next thing to do is to attach the sleeve onto the armhole. Join the sleeves to the armhole by pinning the side seam of the sleeve to the side seam of the top as shown. Next, pin the notch on the sleeve crown to the shoulder line of the blouse. Next, pin all around the sleeves. You will notice that your sleeves are slightly bigger and you will need to ease in the sleeves into the armhole. Go ahead and pin it into place and then sew on a 0.5 inch sewing allowance all around. Repeat the process for the second sleeve, making sure to ease the sleeve into the armhole. After sewing the sleeves onto the top, this is what it looks like. At this point, the blouse is nearly done, and the next thing to do is to make the elastic casing and put in some elastic, and then our blouse is done. To make the elastic casing, hem the sleeves by folding in 1/2 inch and then 1 inch. Go ahead and pin it into place and then sew all around at the edge. you want to make sure you leave a gap unsewn so that we can pass our elastic into the elastic casing. Cut out 2 pieces of the elastic needed and then go ahead and attach your elastic onto a safety pin. With the safety pin, insert the elastic into the elastic casing as shown. After inserting the elastic into the elastic casing, go ahead and sew the elastic together and then sew the gap closed. Repeat this for the second sleeve. After closing up the gap, the sleeve should look like this. At this point, we are now done with our blouse, and this is what the blouse should look like. Alright guys, we've come to the very end of this tutorial. Thank you so much for watching to the end. I hope you enjoyed it and I hope it was worth your while. If you enjoyed this tutorial, please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Don't forget to share. Don't forget to leave your comments, suggestions and feedback in the comment section. If you haven't followed me on social media, don't forget to do so. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't. Thank you once again for watching and see you in my next video. Bye!